Hi everybody, welcome to lesson 4 of our series of lessons on the 20th century fiction. Before you've done this lesson, hopefully you've done lessons 1 to 3. If you haven't, don't worry, you can pick it up from here, okay? So to do this lesson, you'll need a piece of paper to make some notes if you need to, a pen or a pencil, and you'll need the document that goes alongside this that you'll need to submit to your teacher using Google Classroom. Okay, so let's get started. Right, so big picture, we're studying English language GCSE. We've been looking for the last 3 weeks at 20th century fiction extracts. We've been looking at how to analyse character and technique, and we've focused on not just what a writer says to create a feeling, but also how they say it and the techniques that they use. And we're going to be continuing to look at that today. So, little recap for you. So, pen and paper at the ready. I'd like you to have a go at answering the following question. What techniques can a writer use to create drama and tension? Think back to your extract about the creepy doll from last week. What techniques did the writer use to make that more sinister? So, pause the video and write down some ideas. Okay, let's go through some answers. So you could have had, tick these if you've got them, withholding information, character responses, reactions and their thoughts, imagery such as similes and metaphors, and use of senses, so sensual language or the 5 senses. So tick for any of those that you've got, and if you want to add any that are missing to your notes, that would be good as well. Okay, so today we're going to look at a new 20th century fiction text. We're going to consider how a writer shows a character's feelings, and we're going to complete a practice 10-mark response, and that's what's going to be submitted to your teacher. So when I'm talking about the document that you need, this is what you should have open in front of you. It's called Year 10, Week 4, Man and Boy. And it's got all of the extracts that you need on it. So make sure you've got that open, please. Okay, so apologies while my Chromebook is on a bit of a go slow. Okay, right. Okay, so this is the introduction to the text. As we know, we can't use this in our response, but it's a really good way to start. We know that this is prose fiction, so it's made up, fictional. It was written in 1999, and it's called Man and Boy. In this extract, a young man witnesses the birth of his first child. So remember, we can't use that information. It's just a little bit of a leg up, isn't it, to understanding the text. Okay, so first of all, I'd like you to pause the video and I want you to read the whole text. It's quite an easy text this week. So pause the video, give it a read. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the first question on your sheet. And the first question that you've got to answer is, what impressions do you get of the narrator? Now, I don't want you to write this out as a full response. I'd like you to bullet point it. So, first of all, think about what we mean by impressions. An impression means our thoughts about the character, what we think of him. Answer the first question on your worksheet, which is activity 1. So you bullet point 5 impressions that we get about him. Use your own words, please, and don't copy out chunks from the text. So pause the video and do activity 1, please. Okay, moving on. We're going to have a look now at activity 2. So here is a part of the lesson that I want you to try and find some techniques that a writer uses to create character. This is the how. So not just what is said that shows the character's reactions, but also how they show a character's reactions as well. So you'll see that you've got the techniques on the left-hand side, and I want you to copy out a quotation from the text that shows that technique. We've got exclamations, rhetorical questions, repetition, and present tense verbs. This should take you about 10 minutes. So pause the video and have a go at doing that bit, please. Okay, moving on. Now, here's the main part of the lesson. So this is the big question that I'd like you to answer, which you can write down in your notes if you're writing this by hand, or you'll see it at the bottom of the Google Doc that you could be working on. How does the writer show the narrator's strong emotions after the birth of his child? Now look at some of these key words. Strong emotions. After the birth of his child, and we've got this word here as well, haven't we? How? So we know we're not just looking at what is said that shows his strong emotions, like what he does and how he acts and that sort of stuff. You're also looking at the techniques that the writer uses to get across those strong emotions. Okay, it's worth 10 marks. So how many quotes and comments do we use? Yeah, you're right. Quotes, you're looking at 10 quotes and comments. How long do we spend on this question? Yep, you're right. I think you're right. Around about 10 minutes, but I'm going to give you about 15, okay? So you can do a little bit of more of a detailed response. Okay, so before we get into it, we need to make sure we've got the stuff that we need to answer the question, right? So look back at the text. There's a bunch of things that happen in this text that show the writer's strong emotions. Okay, let's talk through some of them. If you're confident and you feel like you could just do this response straight away, skip this bit of the video and just go for it. But if you want a bit of an extra advice about the things you might want to put in your answer, then this bit of the video is for you. Okay, so we've got the repetition here, haven't we? Here, it's a little boy. We've got the exclamations that are at the start. We've got this bit here. Something chemical happens inside him. There's a big change going on with the character, isn't there? Look at this bit. The most beautiful baby in the history of the world. Well, that's an exaggeration or hyperbole. It's probably not the most beautiful baby, but it shows his strong emotions. Look at all these rhetorical questions showing him questioning himself and his confusion, his excitement. Then he talks about what the baby's doing, and he says he feels like he belongs in a way that he's never belonged anywhere. That's a really strong emotion there, isn't it? It shows how much he's changed. Then he talks about, there's a little bit of his mother's dialogue as well, and he looks at his mother and his father's reactions, and his excitement is reflected through his parents' reactions. And he particularly focuses on his own father, and he's excited to see how excited his own father is. And isn't that just the way sometimes you get excited by looking at someone else's responses? I can tell he feels it too. So he's excited seeing his dad's strong emotions. Again, we get the repetition of it being the most beautiful baby in the world. So there's a lot there, isn't there? And if you look on the second page as well of the article of the text, you'll see lots of things that he does and he says that show his strong emotions. Okay, so not a tricky text this week. I think you can get lots there. Right, so now I'd like you to have a go at activity 3. I want you to spend 15 minutes writing a longer response, and you can use this model opening if you want, okay? So let's have a look at how you should structure your response. Firstly, we see the writer's exclamation, "It's a boy." Tick. Almost as if you can't believe it's happened. We've got a quote and a comment, we've got a mark. He also suggests something chemical happens inside him, suggesting he's completely changed. Okay, we've got a quote, we've got a comment, we've got a mark. So how many marks do you think we've got so far? You're right. We've got 2 marks so far because we've got 2 quotes and comments. Right. Do your response. I want you to aim to write for 15 minutes using up to 10 quotations and comments. Okay, so pause the video, have a go, and you can do it. Well done. Ooh, not the answers yet. Right. Once you've paused the video, and now we should be ready to mark our response. Okay, so let's go and have a look. We'll mark our response. So here's what you could have had. Okay, tick every time you've got one of these. Repetition and exclamations. Something chemical changes inside him. Rhetorical questions to show his emotions. He feels like he belongs. He thinks the baby is the most beautiful in the history of the world. Bit of hyperbole. He reflects on his father looking at the baby. He can tell his father feels it too. He's excited that his dad is now granddad. He says, that's him, that's granddad. There's a lot of present tense verbs which show that it's something important happening to him now. We get the use of the word today. He's confident, isn't he? There's lots of assertive language where he says, I know this is. All the other landmarks of his life, he talks about driving and drinking, doesn't he? Mean little in comparison. He believes he's become a man, and it finishes by him reasserting his age. I am 25, to show the significance of the events. Okay, so lots there. Give yourself a mark out of 10, and if you want to put an estimate on for your teacher, you can do. Right, so let's think about what we've done today. You've done really well, guys. You've done a 10-mark how question. We've looked at techniques. We've looked at character impressions. We've done a 10-mark question on how a character shows reactions and emotions, and you have done fantastically well. So well done. So submit all the stuff that you've done today on Google Classroom to your own teacher and have a little break because you've worked hard. Bye, everybody.